I've never met anybody who has its own administrator. Brian works for a cat. It's real. It's a boy. What do you think? I wanted him to hear particularly that I have dominion over him. He doesn't seem to get that in any way at all. I've been told that most cats don't, and I've never had one. So I just wanted to prove to you that here's Henry, and I have no dominion over him. But he's going to go find Ryan. At any time in my life, besides today, if anybody had told me that one, I would have a cat, or a cat would have me, and two, I would be giving a sermon in a church, I would have told them that indeed they had lost their mind or they had the wrong person. Since I'm here, I'm not sure what it says about me or Henry, but it's either he gets all the blame or all the credit, and I'm never sure which. Let me give you a little history. Henry came to us indirectly as a result of the Cedar Fires, which is one of the worst fires that California ever had. In Dodson, my second home was miraculously saved. Just one of the injustices of the world since it was a second home. But since it was saved, we opened it up to many people for 2 years who spent a lot of time there and lived there because there are very few homes enjoying to rent, places to be. And after the fire, there were many people who lost their homes. And one of the families that came asked if their little girl could have a kitty. Well, that was sort of a dreadful thought to me because I'm a dog person, a really devoted dog person. But I thought, well, there's almost 4 acres, and we're only here on the weekend, and we're not here much at all anyway with the people living here. So we said fine, and then came kitty, 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 and kitty. There was not one kitty. When we first met Henry, he had all his paws, all 4. And he walked in very carefully one day in the house. The door was open. He walked right up to our black poodle, Valley Dog, and went nose to nose. And I thought, my God, the dog's going to kill him. And then he walked away. And that's the last we saw Henry with 4 paws. The next week when we came up, we looked for the 4 kittens, and only 3 scampered up. And we asked the little girl, where's the other one? And she said, I think he hurt his paw. So we went looking around and found Henry curled up in a little corner, and his paw was dangling uselessly from his shoulder. He was not in any pain, because the nerve had been cut, but he just dragged that way. So even though cats were not high on my list, animals in general are. So we rushed into the country vet in Julian, and the vet told us a sort of stunning thing. One, we had to have him amputated, or he would die. And 2, he could no longer be an outdoor kitty if he had it amputated because he wouldn't be able to take care of himself. Well, that left this terrible decision of euthanasia or amputation. Well, I believed that our dog would kill, she's a poodle, she's a hunter, she'd kill Henry. And I wasn't sure what I would do with him either. So I grew up in a home where I was taught to hate cats. My mother was partially paralyzed from polio. And she loved birds, and she loved to watch the birds, and the cats ate the birds, so cats were bad. It seemed sensible to me. And I never really thought of myself as prejudiced. I just thought of myself as a devoted dog person, dog only. And it turned out that I didn't know anybody who had a cat. My whole life I didn't know anybody who had a cat. Like most things, we seek people who believe in what we believe, so I hung out with a lot of dog people. So with that history, you might understand that we made the decision to euthanize Henry. Only as Don and I sat in the car, neither one of us could get up and open the door and bring him in to be euthanized. He sat up there and purred and gazed and purred and gazed. I kept saying, don't do this, don't do this, this is not nice. At which point, we gave up and we brought him in, and he got his little paw taken off. At that time, I was going through some losses of my own, and I was so shocked at having a cat that I thought the way to deal with it was to sort of write some of our friends' first impressions as told from Henry and what it was like to come from the country and the mountains into this city home with people who clearly knew nothing about who was in charge. So I sent them to 20 friends. 20 friends just writing a couple little adventures. And they forwarded those letters on. And soon Henry had dozens of letters from animals who I never heard of. And from people I never heard of either. One of his pals was a woman named Emmy Lou. And it was then that I really realized that Henry was on to something really amazing. Emmy Lou was a little Siamese cat who lived in Bremerton, Washington. And Emmy Lou was writing all sorts of things. And one day, Emmy Lou wrote, right before Thanksgiving, that her mother came home crying, that she had had a kitty scan. And the kitty scan said that she had something called lung cancer. And that her father was very far away in a place called Iraq. She didn't want to tell her husband about the lung cancer because she was afraid that Jonathan would be so upset not being able to come home that something might happen to him. So Henry was the absolute only person, cat, who knew that he had lung cancer. She wrote daily, and the little kitty went back and forth. And in January, Jonathan got humanitarian leave and was brought home to be with his wife during chemotherapy, which was a very difficult course. It was a very progressed stage of lung cancer. And the chemotherapy failed after 6 months. And here's a woman who never once wrote in her name. She only wrote as Emmy Lou. But her dying wish was to come and meet her pal, Henry. So Henry sent her a ticket, and Dee Kinder got on a plane and flew to San Diego and spent 4 days with her pal. As she arrived at our door, she became Dee, and Donna and I were no longer Dr. Mom and Mom Kathy, when we became Donna and Kathy. Spent a magical 4 days, and when she left, she asked if Henry would write the eulogy for her service. It was at that point that I thought there really is something different going on here. Because more and more letters were coming in, and more stories were coming in. People kept asking Henry to put them in a book form. So that was how the first book got born. It was the beginning letters of his first 2.5 months of his adventures, and people writing him. And mostly they were writing him to teach him things and how strange humans were, and he had to get used to certain things. But Henry decided that his life was saved for a purpose. Here he was with 2 people that didn't like cats, and who, if they hadn't had some thousands of dollars to pay for this operation, this cat would have been dead. So he felt that his mission was to heal humans and to help animals. So all the profits from his books were to go to help and heal animals. There was everything about printing costs, and included printing costs because he's not very fiscally responsible, are going to help others. The second big thing that made me know that something different was happening was about a year and a half ago, I picked up the San Diego Union. You might have seen a story that said, "Woman prays for miracle." It was a woman who was diagnosed with a disease that she was dying from, and she wanted to be reunited with her 6 cats. And Henry went meow and sent us off to the shelter downtown to meet Dr. Joe. When we did, we said that Henry wrote a letter and said, you know, we're going to help you. We're going to get you out of here. We're going to get you back with your kitties. And there ensued an incredible journey in which we did get her out in 10 days. She's still alive, and she's sitting in the front row here. And Henry and his paw pals are taking care of Dr. Joe, who just told me today that the incurable pulmonary hypertension has gone from a level 4 to gone. So I said, how do you explain it? She said, God. And Henry said, I've heard. I've heard the whole time it was me. So I'll leave you to decide which it is.